Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all of our listeners out in podcast land. This is Joe coming to you from the She Compass Show with my co-captain Helen. So happy to have you here.
Hello.
And there she is, greeting you as always, and ready to share some wonderful feedback and advice with you. So today I want to talk a little bit about the hair loss experience for women. Now, what I don't want to do is spend too much time kind of giving you a definition of what each of these things are and why they occur. You know, you can go to your doctor for specific medical advice, but what I do want to talk about is the effect that it can have, how to really be in control, what you can do about it, how you can manage it. We're going to get into some specifics about the effect that it has on women. Let me give the folks that may not know a little bit of a backstory. If you are a new listener to the show, then you may not know that Helen had a roughly 40-year career in hair replacement, and the clients that she has worked on have come from all over the world, locally, internationally, and she's really spent her life transforming women. So in addition to sort of having the background to be able to analyze what's happening with their hair and scalp, the other thing that she brings to the table that I have always thought is a very unique quality is the ability to be able to connect with these women in ways that a lot of folks have not connected with them in their past. And what that does is it allows them to really open up and share their experiences about what they're going through. And usually, just from my own sort of observation, what I notice is that the women will come in initially to have some hair loss condition addressed. But then what ends up happening is it becomes much more than that. They're sharing their stories, they're sharing their experiences, they're sharing more about what the effect of the hair loss is doing to their lives or what they think may have brought it on because of something that happened in their life. And that's really where the whole She Compass concept came from. It is the thing that started the book. The book is basically, it's a collection of stories of women who are sharing the obstacles that they have overcome. And Helen is privy to that. And that's why she tells the story as the narrator and as the person writing the memoir. She's privy to their experiences and saying, hey, look, these are all these different kinds of women from all over the world who all have different places, but what brings them all together is that they are going through something in their life and they have all employed the necessary beliefs and skill set to be able to get over that obstacle. And let's talk about it. What can we all learn from it? So that's really kind of where it all started. So I wanted to spend a moment talking a little bit and kind of shining the light a little bit on Helen in terms of what she's discovered from her experience and see if there's a way that we can kind of use her background to sort of help women who might be going through this. So Helen, if I can ask you a question,
Sure.
I think the thing I would probably want to start with is the women that come to you are all sort of in different states of illness. Some of them are going through cancer. Some of them are experiencing trichotillomania. For those of you who may not know, that's a compulsive hair pulling disease. Some of them have alopecia, which again, for those, to give a quick, very, very quick definition, that's patchy baldness in the hair and scalp. Patchy baldness in the hair where you can see portions of the scalp in the areas because there's so much patchiness and hair loss there. So there's all these different factors that they're dealing with. And what would you say is the main thing that you want to try to impart upon women who might be finding themselves in a situation like this? Even stress causes hair loss. What's the first thing that you typically want people to know?
Well, first thing I'm going to talk about is due to the most famous book ever written in the world, the Bible, says that a woman's hair is her crown and glory. And I always say to women, when we lose our hair, so we lose our glory. It's a very hard and difficult thing to talk about in one sentence or explain it all in one whole because everybody's going through something different. When you're going through hair loss because of lupus is a lion and it attacks the immune system. So that is you're very sick. Not only are you losing your hair, but you're very ill. When you're in different stages of cancer, depending on the stage of life that they're in with their cancer, we're talking about a woman who has very little time left on the planet versus a woman who's fighting for her life so that she has more time on the planet. So we are talking from the mental aspect, we are talking devastating. Alopecia, like I have, which is an autoimmune deficiency, which it's not life-threatening, but it is debilitating in the way that you are constantly losing your hair. And some of the dermatologists have shots and things that they can do and give for the scalp. And I've seen, sometimes it's great success. Sometimes there's no success, like with me. I've tried it all, but I've had it since I was 11 years old. There's nothing I can do about it. So I just face it head on, because I feel like I get to have some of the most beautiful hair in the world on my head, and I get to try all these beautiful hairdos and ideals and ideas. But that's not for everybody. For a lot of women, it will be devastating for them from the time that they start with something to the end of when they end with something, because it's just the whole mental aspect that people don't typically deal with, because a lot of times you need psychiatrists, you need to talk to different psychologists. It goes much further, especially if you have trichotillomania, which is a compulsive hair pulling disorder where you're basically pulling out your own hair, one hair at a time. You're going through this hair pulling phase, which is affecting every aspect of your life. When you're in this arena and you're with all of these different women, and I'm talking about from all walks of life, from people who work every day, hardworking people, from people who are running million and billion dollar industries. So it's not even about how much you have. It's about what you're doing with what you have. And what I mean is mentally. So my job is to talk the women through it and try to see what stage they are in with what they have. And I'm not even talking about what they have is in terms of their hair, in terms of where their mental is. Because if you don't come in contact with the mental part of it, you can never, ever deal with the physical part of it. So it's a everyday job. I love it. I've been doing it 40 years. I if I could do it to the day I die, I would never retire, and just constantly keep doing it because of the love of it. A lot of things grew out of this. The podcast grew out of it. The book grew out of it. It's pretty much kind of everything I do has something to do with it. And these women have, not only have I offered them strength in their life, but they've offered me so much strength in my life. They empowered me and strengthened me to know that I can be a better person and do better things and reach hierarchies. So we are like one, but my mission is to get them to a better place mentally where they can handle what's going on with them physically.
That's great. A great roundup and sort of overview of not only what you do, but really the insight of where everything came from and the impact that you're trying to have. Because really, when you think about it, I've always, in my mind, this is the way I've sort of rationalized what you do. And as a woman who has experienced hair thinning her entire life, I'm so glad that I have my sister, because I'm not going to walk in the same shoes that she had to as a child, because she has the gift of being able to say, okay, here's what we need to do to keep you from getting to a place where your hair loss is so extreme that, you too will be in a situation like I was when I was a kid. So my hair continues to be very thin and it's very fragile.
Yeah.
And I think, go ahead.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I never compare apples to oranges, because a lot of women that I deal with will say, I've heard in the salon things like, what is she doing here? She has hair. And, and I say, well, that's like your 10 pounds and my 10 pounds.
Right.
Your 10 pounds may be devastating to you, and my 10 pounds may not mean anything to me because I may be comfortable. She's not comfortable with the amount of hair she has. To her, it's just as devastating as what you have. So I try to make sure that I keep a very low profile on what's damaging to others, because by me having hair thinning as a child, I could have very easily looked at it and said, well, hey, I had bald patches all over my head. You don't have that.
Right.
What are you doing here? But you can't do that. You have to, I've talked to women who are devastated just over losing half of the hair they had. And believe me, they had a lot of hair, so they still have a lot left. But when you've had a lot of something and then half of that something you have gets taken away, you feel just like the woman who doesn't have anything.
That is a really, really good point. And thank you for clarifying that. That, I think, is the beauty of what you do, is you look at each of these women as an individual. And what I was going to do was compare it to the sort of sort of the medical only approach where, and this is just from personal experience, just basically saying we've all been in a situation, we go into a doctor's office and it's very, you sort of get one piece of information. Here's what you need to do. Here's what's happening. And they send you on your way with whatever prescription or
with the prescription that they give everybody else for the same thing.
Right. But what you do is you look at each person individually and you say, hey, how can we look at this? How can we heal the whole person? What can we do? Because you've worked with doctors, you've referred people back and forth constantly because there's some things that are above and beyond, that need that level of medical intervention. But what I think that's great about you is you're kind of the person that floats in between all of those things.
And two, by working with thousands of women, what you find is I've never found two women alike, no matter what they had, no matter if we all had the same thing. Having the same diagnosis and having the same thing is two different things. If you're diagnosed with something, every woman diagnosed with breast cancer is going to handle that breast cancer differently, going to have a different outcome, and going to have a different way that she thinks about it and handles it. So it's like a DNA. We all have different DNA. No two people are alike. And the same thing with hair loss. By working with thousands of women over my career, I've never seen two women who handled things the same way or who have the same opinion about the outlook of what is going on with her at that particular time.
And Helen, one of the things I think that is great about the work that you do is that you take women's illness seriously. So many women have come out in recent years to say on so many different topics, to say that I went to my doctor and they didn't believe me, that I'm not being taken seriously. There's one thing popping into my head right now about Serena Williams when she was giving birth and she was telling the doctor that I think it was her blood pressure was getting out of control, spiking, and they were saying, don't worry about it, you're fine. And she said, I know my body. I'm a world-class athlete. I'm telling you that something is wrong.
She could have lost her life.
She could have lost her life like that. And I think that's one of the things that's greatest about who you are. And I want you to respond to that. But I want to read a little quick passage from Finding Our She Compass that I think this I think is really not only sets up the book, but it kind of bridges the work that Helen does and why it's so important to her to make sure that women's health and women in general are put top of mind. So let me just read this to you. In the beginning, we were all rugged pirates searching for the same treasure. I was a veteran hair loss and hair replacement expert that guided my fair maidens in wars against the physical and mental challenges of going bald in a world where our hair is inextricably linked to our femininity, dignity, and ultimately our self-worth. I brought my years of award-winning hands-on experience, my knowledge base of medical resources, and countless client stories of survival and success to the table to let my ladies know I truly understood their journey. I began losing my hair as a child and knew all too well the impact that losing our crowning glory could have on one's self-esteem. And Helen, I think that's really the sort of the ballpark. Let's talk a little bit about that in terms of what you bring to the table in terms of believing women and empowering them to be able to do stuff about their health.
Women's issues get pushed to the side a lot, and we're not even believed by sometimes family members and loved ones when we say we can feel in our bodies that we're not well. For any reason, because who knows our bodies better than we do? When we go to doctors, they don't know us. We have to teach them who we are and teach them how our body operates. That's why they ask the questions. They went to medical school to study medicine, to study the healing process of medicine. The healing process of the body and the healing process of medicine are two different things. So in my practice, I've even detected things that were going on with women. When I talk to them, I say, well, that's very important. You need to go see a doctor about that right away, because that's not something that should be ignored or just pushed to the side, because as mothers, wives, business women, working women, we basically, most of the time with women, we put ourselves last. We don't really pay attention to the signs, or even if we do, we ignore them. So in order for us to still be on this planet and existing as mothers and wives and friends of people and loved ones, we need to take care of ourselves first.
I'm going to jump in for just a second. As I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as I recall, I think there were 2 women that you saw something in their scalp and had actually sent them to a doctor, and it turned out to be precancerous or it was cancer. Okay, I knew that had happened at least once, possibly twice.
And then there was a lump on the neck that was she had.
That's the one. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Right.
Yeah, she had a melanoma, didn't she?
Melanoma. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what we are as cosmetologists. Is we learn to study the anatomy of the scalp and things like that. And if we see certain things, we should say something and make sure that people are aware of different moles that they have on their body, or lumps or something that, and in every case I was told, I didn't even know what that was, or I didn't even pay attention, or is that something? And if you could see the things that they didn't pay attention to, I'm talking about rises that were on the head, maybe a quarter of an inch off the head or something. But we just, as women, our lives are so consumed with trying to just do the best we can for the people around us. We don't pay attention to others. And I keep on telling people, if you're on an airplane, they tell you, assist yourself first with that air, and then assist your child or assist the person next to you. If you don't make amends for yourself first, you won't be able to take care of anybody around you. So women, pay attention to the signs of anything, any changes in your body, or anything where you may not be feeling well. Go see a doctor immediately. That's been my work with women. It's been much more than just hair, much more than just the anatomy of hair. It's been all about the loving and caring of the person in what they're going through. Because if you can't get them through that, the hair and the mental part about what's going on with the outside part is not going to mend unless you can help fix the inside part.
And I think what you just said is really, really important, because that's what I think women are searching for. And I think all people are searching to be heard. They're searching to be validated. And I just want to underscore this point, and I'm kind of going to waffle back a little bit, but I just do want to underscore this point, that anytime you're talking about a show that's talking about medical information, we always want to stress and remind people that our medical community is important, and they're a part of the reason that we're here. And we never want advice that is given, or any topics to be misconstrued as medical advice. Always get your doctor involved. And Helen, you've done that for years, even with the diagnoses that you've seen.
Well, here's the thing: you're getting the medical community involved when you're convincing someone to go see a doctor.
That's
I'm
correct.
not a doctor by any means. I don't claim to be. I'm a trichologist and a cosmetologist, and with that, we're the first line of defense sometimes for people with their trust issues coming to us to talk to us about things that they personally wouldn't talk to anybody else about.
And that right there, that's the beauty of it.
Right.
That's the point that I was going to make, that it's because that, and I think this is why it's really important to have
this
that.
is for cosmetologists out there too.
That's right.
And so that they know that they have the strength and the ability to move people to the next position.
Amen.
And another thing about us in the world that I'm in, we must start to know that we need to make the connections on what we are specialists at. I am a hair replacement, non-surgical hair replacement specialist in every way. If you are a cosmetologist that is a specialist in color, now color is my thing too. And let me not slide on that, because I love color. I love cutting. I love creating the hair replacement aspect of doing hair. And I am a trichologist because I know how to look at the scalp. I know how to examine the scalp. I know how to figure out what's going on so I can move someone to the next level. Please, as cosmetologists, learn to understand that if we are not taking anything away from each other. I'm trying to service the greater community of women who have the problem in my area. We must learn how to refer out. We must, because I cannot tell you how many times women will come to me and say, no one told me about you. Or if I would have known about you years ago, I could have came to you. No one referred me. They didn't know how to. They didn't know where to. We have to understand that when we get in this business, we are already known as the profession that you do this because you can't do anything else. And that's just not true. I've seen so many talented people, so many wonderful people doing this, so many business-driven, orientated people who are doing this on levels that you would not believe. But since that, let's break that cycle and let people know that we are smart enough to know where to refer people to when they have certain problems. And if not me, there are other hair replacement specialists out there who specialize in looking at this and knowing how to help.
I cannot agree with that statement any more than I already do. I am so glad that you said that, because the other people that benefit, and this is the thing that we as an industry need to keep in mind, just what you just said, the people who benefit the most are the clients themselves. You know, particularly a woman who's having all kinds of multiple hair challenges. You've had some women in your chair that have several different things going on with their hair all at one time, and you are challenged to try to offer some level of solution that will allow this woman to feel normal for the first time in years, and in some cases for the first time in her life. So it's really important that we remember all of the opportunities that we have, that we can share amongst our clients by being open to doing that. So I'm so glad that you said that, because clients are the one that benefit. All I can think about is, if I'm the one sitting in the chair, I would want as much information about what I can do to help myself as possible.
Yes, and in my first line of defense, I can look at a person's scalp and say, you need to immediately make an appointment with your dermatologist. You need to see a doctor before I can do anything for you, because there's something going on with you right now that I don't want to touch, because I don't know if you're going to be going backwards or we're going to be going forward. But I do know this: whatever's going on right now could be dangerous to your health, and I'm not going to cover it up with anything, so a doctor won't be able to diagnose you the proper way. And even though women have a lot of anxious, they're like, yeah, but I need to cosmetically, I need to look better. I can suggest things that they can do in the interim, but there's no way I'm going to touch that until you go see a doctor, because the most important thing is your health. And what I know you've been dealing with the physical aspect of it this long, trying to cover things, and I understand that. But my first line of defense is your health and well-being. So you need to see a doctor first.
And Helen, I want to take a moment to underscore what you were saying about hairstylists and the opinion that people have, thinking that that's what they do because they can't do anything else. There's a great passage in this book that I think illustrates the importance of the impact that stylists can have, particularly on women who are losing their hair. I, too, sometimes still get the just a hairdresser look from people. There are those who will always be convinced that stylists are nothing more but simple-minded fools with a comb and shears whose only job is to play around on a canvas of hair. Particularly for those of us who serve special needs clients, we deal at any given time with our clients' medical, physical, mental, and emotional issues each time we sit them in our chairs. For many people, we are their most trusted confidants. We are privy to intimate details about their lives, some of which their family members may not be aware. We have changed entire lives in the time it takes to do a haircut or color. This line of work is not for people who want an easy job, and I think that's really wraps up what you're saying in terms of the importance and the impact that people have. And that's why it's so important, I think, when you are starting to see anything happening with hair loss or any sort of battles that you might be facing, getting your stylist involved. This is the person that sees you every day, that you have a close relationship with, that has become your confidant, that is a person that you've shared all of your closest intimate details with. Being able to trust them and letting them guide you, I think, is so important, and being able to have that trust makes all the difference in the world, don't you think?
Oh, yes, most definitely. My basic suggestion is that whenever you have a problem and you go to somebody and you don't know what to do, if you're having hair loss issues, even if you're with a stylist that you've been with a very long time and that's not something they specialize in, you need to ask questions to that stylist and say, is there anywhere or anybody that you can refer me to for these issues? People just don't know. They don't even know what it's called. They don't even know that it's called a hair loss specialist or a hair replacement specialist or non-surgical hair replacement specialist. So, I'm just hoping that if there's anybody out there who needs help, that they know that there is help for them. And that is why I'm doing this show today, because my podcasts are about everything in the world besides hair. But I am still actively doing hair. I try to do each one of them with the most love and the highest of care, the highest of emotion, and the highest work ethic that I can. Hair replacement will always be number one for me and closest to my heart. Helping women through that battle has been my mission statement from the time I was in my early teens. And it is something that will always stay special to me. And if you're a woman out there and you're having any of these type of issues and you want to reach out just to talk about it, you can even give me a call anytime. 510-368-3519. That's 510-368-3519. And I am still actively working all the time. I love you out there. And if this is something that you might be going through, and like I said, you just want to talk about it, contact me.
And I want to underscore that by also giving out your email, Helen. It's funny. I was thinking the other day, I said, one of the things that has been crossing my mind is I keep thinking I've got to find a way to include Helen's work on this show and to be able to put out her personal email and also her phone number and things of that nature. So you just gave me the excuse to do it. So let me give you her email as well. And that's Her Secret Hair, HERSECRET, hair, like the hair on your head, at gmail.com. And she does read all of the messages, of course, with my help, so that the dyslexia doesn't get in the way.
Oh, yeah. But stuff starts falling off the page. It's help.
Right. So I make sure that everything gets translated appropriately, and she absolutely responds to it. And this is the thing that I want to, a couple of things I want to bring home again and underscore again, that She Compass was born because of the compassion that Helen has for women in states of disarray, and the compassion that she has for wanting to help women overcome their obstacles. This is just another tangent of all of it all stems from her. It stems from her kindness and for her desire to want to connect with women. And it started in the chair or behind the chair, I guess would be the appropriate phrase.
And if there's a book number 2, which we're thinking about, it will still end up from the stories behind the chairs, because let me tell you, the story behind the chair is a story of great triumph in women's lives. And I am so proud to be a part of something that changed lives forever for the better. And I would hope that I could do that for every woman. Now, throughout my career, I've dealt with a lot of mental issues in women. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do about that. You have to, direct people in a different direction because but I can say this, being the person to bring that out was still a triumph for me, because that was maybe something that they didn't even really know that they had. And I always say that with the loss of hair brings the loss of a lot of other things, because there's just so many disabilities, I would say, that goes along with hair loss that people don't really pinpoint in, and they kind of just focus on the hair loss. But there are just so many things around that come out, and it's sad.
And that's, I think, what makes the work that you do so meaningful, because again, it's one thing if someone gives you a diagnosis and a prognosis and they say, here's what you need to do to deal with XYZ. And it's a whole nother thing to have somebody who understands the diagnosis, but they're holding your hand through the process. They're letting you express all of the emotions that you have. They're letting you share all of the concerns that you have. They're basically there to let you open up.
And let you go through it.
Yes.
Let you go through it in a comfortable environment where you can have a breakdown, and we're not going to look at you like you're crazy or say something about you.
Or you can go into a place where you have patches in your head, or
Right.
you're
And no
totally
one's-
bald, and no one's going to point at you.
No one's looking.
No
at
one's going to
you
bully you.
because, for one thing, it's a private environment. It belongs to you when you're there. Private consultations where they can talk freely about what the problem is and where they feel it stemmed from. My prayers go out to you if you're out there and you're listening to this, and you're one of those people who are going through this.
And I couldn't agree more. And I think it's really important that we do this show on this, because I think people need to know how it came about and why we're so focused on making sure that women feel positive in their own life and around each other. It's because when you've been doing it this long, when you've seen women who are broken and need that assistance and need to have their hand held and are begging for someone to be able to give them some kind of relief, that's all you want for people. You want them to be able to live in a positive space. So we're going to continue to do that. And we thank you folks out there for joining us and supporting our journey. So let me give you a couple things. I gave you Helen's email. I'll give it to you again, hersecrethair@gmail.com. You also have her phone number, 510-368-3519. She works on women all over the nation, all over the world, and everything is private, as she said, and it's a very in-depth kind of relationships that she has. So if this is a concern that you have, feel free to reach out. And our whole thing is making sure that you're armed with all the information that you need to make the best decision.
Yeah, the more ammunition you have, the better.
And so if you have any other ideas or updates or feedback that you want to share with us, you can always find us on social media. We are on Instagram at shecompass.com. By the way, Helen's Instagram is Helen Owens. So if you want to follow her on there, see some of the things that she's been doing just all across the board, you're welcome to do that. And we are also on Facebook at She Compass, and our Twitter is She Compass, and Helen's Twitter is Helen Hair Secret. So if you have any other questions or feedback for us, you know where to find us. Please reach out. You can talk to us about any issues you might have, things that you want to talk about on the show. And we're here for you, ladies. We're here to make sure that you can rise to your greatest potential and that you can be your best. That's what we're here to do. A little housekeeping note, if you haven't heard already, we will not have a show on August 13th. The reason is because, once again, Helen will be taking her messages of empowerment to a group called Believe, Inspire, Grow, to show these women and give them the information and give them the spiritual guidance and give them the cheerleading that they're looking for to be their best self. So she'll be doing that the week of, I think it's the week of the 5th. So we will not have a show on the week of the 13th, or I should say on August 13th, but we will have a show the following week. So please stay with us, and we look forward to connecting with you on our next show. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful day.